Oh, well, Mark, you had a really good side in MK last weekend. You've got another really good side this weekend in Rotherham, but a very different sort of really good side.
Yeah, and press repeat on that for the next 7 days, Swanee. We've got a tough week ahead, which we know, but like you say, that they're very different in terms of the style which they play. But Rotherham are in great form. They've got a strong squad, very similar to the squad that competed in the Championship last year. So we know what we're up against and how tough that task will be. But I think one of the reasons that we're so pleased to be competing at this level is for these challenges. So it's one that we'll take on with our usual sort of optimism and energy, and give the best account of ourselves we can against a really strong side that obviously have different expectations to ours, but one that we've got to try and show we can be competitive with. And I believe in us going there and delivering a strong performance full of all the qualities we're going to need to be competitive in the game.
Yeah, and they're one of these sides where they're really relentless. They'll test you right throughout the 90 minutes. They'll get crosses into the box, and I guess they'll just be waiting, won't they, for you to make that mistake. You've got to keep the concentration.
Yeah, we'll have to defend well, for sure. I mean, they are a team that make you defend. I think they've created the most chances in the league, have the most penalty box entries in the league, really high for crossing stats. So every stat is in their favour at the moment. It's why they are one of the top teams and why they're fancied like they are. But you can also you can go into a game feeling like the task's impossible if you talk about that too much. I mean, we have to know what we are, what we can do, remind ourselves of when we've done that really well. And the key to the game will be, yes, our defensive concentration and quality of their defending, but what we do with the ball, and if we can control periods of the game. And the task for us is to try and do what we did in the second half last week, at a time when the game's level, and at a time when the game is there in the balance, rather than when the game had run away from us last week is when we really began to play. And we have to try and become a team that can be super competitive throughout the whole game against these sides.
Yeah, and you have got really strong away performances to draw upon. Plymouth from right at the start of the season, Portsmouth as well. You've shown you can do it.
Yeah, we know we can. We've done it before, and we know all the options of what can happen to us this year. We've seen every end of the spectrum really in the games that we've played. So we know that there's a variety in what can happen, and a variety in what we can do. I think the thing that we've realised and we recognise is we have to find a real top level in order to do that. We're in a busy period, as we know, and that might go in our favour, having that game momentum. Rotherham are fresh off international break, so there's some energy in their team, no doubt, and we'll have to cope with that. But they've had a really good run of form recently, going all the way back to September sometime when they last lost a game. So look, we know what the challenge is, but our task is to try and bring that run to an end, or to stop their winning run as best we can.
Yeah, and in their manager, Paul Warne, he's a little bit like yourself in that he's very much of his club. He's had 5 years as manager, but he's also been a player there. He's a guy that really gets the club he works for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him well at all. I've not come across him before, but I love the way he comes across. I think he's got a real good character about him, and you can tell there's a connection between him and the club, which I think is important. And actually, I think when you look across quite a few clubs at the moment, you're seeing a little bit more of that. That might be a way in which clubs are going. You're seeing a few more examples of almost in-house appointments, or people that understand the fabric of the club, because I think there's a real strength in that. That's not excluding outsiders in your club. I think you've got to get a little bit of everything inside the club, but he certainly understood the identity. And I like the fact that despite maybe a challenging season last year, just sticking with someone when you know it's the right person, and that's a real strength of their club, that they've got that continuity. I think it gives them a good chance, and we're seeing that more and more at the moment, and I think it's a good thing for football.
Yeah, in a world where, of course, money is such a big factor, it's so important as a club if you can find a different way of doing things, if you can find a way to get a competitive edge in a different way.
Yeah, look, of course, budgets are important. They're not the be all and end all. We know that from last year. We had a successful season with one of the lowest budgets in the league. We're going to try and have a successful season this year, albeit success will look different, with one of the lowest budgets in the league. We know that. Those league tables have recently been published in terms of budgets in the league, and we know that the vast size of resources in this league is certainly a significant difference to last year in terms of the difference between the teams at the top and what they're spending and others. But you also see every single year teams that spend big money underachieving, and teams that have a modest spend overachieving. So it is more than just what you can spend. Of course, you want quality and you want depth in your squad, and that really helps. The resources help that, but there's other ways you can be successful as well. And we've cashed in on a few of those in recent years, and we have to keep doing that.
Let's look at the team news with Lloyd Jones, as you mentioned last weekend. Clearly, he's been a miss. You were hoping he'd be back for MK. Is he right on the cusp now, or has that whole process slowed down a bit?
Yeah, slowed down a bit. He's got a bit of a groin strain, so he's making good progress with the physios. He hasn't been out on the grass yet with us. He might be out today. We're waiting to see. So we'll give that as long as possible. But he's near on missing 3 weeks now, so he needs a little bit of training time to build himself back up. So he might not be available for the next few games, but we'll have to just wait and see how that plays out today and for the rest of the week.
Yeah, and with Shiloh Tracey, he wasn't able to train earlier in the week. He hopefully can get on the grass ahead of the weekend.
Same scenario there. We'll see how he is this morning, but he got a whack from the goalkeeper Northampton in the first round on his hip, like hip joint, hip bone, hip flexor, all those sort of areas are quite tender and sore, and it's really stopped him from doing anything really. He's not been able to do too much. So we'll see how that settles down over the next couple of days. But again, he hasn't trained for a while now, and he's not been close this week to being out on the grass. So we'll see what progress he's made today, but that one looks unlikely as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned the other day how well Shiloh's done this season and how much of a miss he's been picking up this injury, which is great. It's another good example, really, given where he was at when he joined the club, the contribution he made last season, then signing permanently and really kicking on this time around at a higher level. He's been ticking a lot of boxes.
He has, yeah. His game time was a little limited last year, maybe because of the shape we were playing. We didn't really play with wide players so much for quite a large part of the end of the season. And when he joined us last year, he was off the back of not playing a lot, off the back of having COVID. It was really stop-start for him. And he always needed a pre-season. And that's paid off for him this year. He's working really hard. He's understanding what we want from him. I think he's improving with and without the ball. And there's lots more to come from him. His challenge is to show the robustness to put games together and be able to find that intensity and work ethic continually. Because he's a big player for us. I think he's got a good impact so far. And I think when he gets himself back in again, he can have a major impact for us for the rest of the season.
Yeah, probably first half at Doncaster as good as any game, really, for showing what he can do with his raw pace and particularly on the break, the way in which he can carry the ball. When he's not in the side, you lose some of that. Is there another player that you feel can take on that role? Is that something that maybe a James Brophy can do, or do you just have to wait until he comes back, really?
Well, we haven't got like for like with Shiloh. I mean, he's blisteringly quick. So that's certainly a quality that you miss, or we miss at the moment while he's out. But James Brophy's got brilliant acceleration, got the ability to carry the ball up the pitch. So certainly more often than not on the opposite side of the pitch is something that we want to try and look for. And you see that quite often when the both of them play together. It gives you a really good attacking threat on both sides. So he's got that. Harvey Nibbs has got not the same in terms of the pace, but he's a good runner and he's energetic, athletic, and he's done well recently. Jack Lancaster isn't the same in terms of explosiveness, but he can carry the ball and cause a different kind of threat. And Sam's been doing great in a wide area, left side, right side. He scored 3 in his last 3. Looks a really good threat at the moment, and he's working really hard. So I think we've got plenty of different options in those wider positions, but I don't think we've got anybody as quick as him, which is why he's so good, because we know that it's a real tough thing to defend against. We're going to have to defend against a lot of quick players this weekend, and we need to make sure that we get our best and most athletic players in dangerous positions. But the sooner we can get him back, the better.
Cool, that's great for me.
How many did Tuesday night give you some selection headaches, Mark?
I think every game is a selection headache, Mark, really, because you've got to pick a team that you think can be competitive. I think the reality of playing so many games in quick succession is just that we haven't played the same team twice in a row. So we're always aiming for freshness, or there's a knock or an injury that forces a change, or there's a suspension that's forced changes. So you always want to you always want to have decisions to make, which is the player's job to be good when they play, to earn the shirt, and then to keep hold of it when they get it. Knowing that I'm going to make changes anyway. I'll change winning teams, I'll change teams between games. I've done that consistently, and the players know when they're in it, they may come out of it regardless, and when they're out of it, they may come back in it. There's a fair consistency to that process, but it's just trying to get a freshness in the team. So I guess I wouldn't probably class it as a headache. I'd just say it's options. We haven't got huge options at the moment, masses of options, but the ones that we've got just mean that you try and pick the right ones for each game. And in the hope that we can get 2 or 3 of the boys back fit and give ourselves a real headache because everyone's doing well, and then we've got some real big decisions to make. But at the moment, it's not the toughest of challenges because we haven't got huge numbers to pick from, but it's just trying to pick the best 11 to start each game, knowing that we've got a good number of players at the moment that are playing well.
Okay, and if you could pick one thing that you want to recreate from that Tuesday night on Saturday that will stand you in the best stead, what would that be?
Probably how well we used the ball and the attacking threat that we carried. We had a nice composure about us with the play, and I think we've got to do that at the weekend and see if we can be a threat not only on counter attack but try and have spells of the game where we sustain possession in their half. I think that's important for us.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Matt.
Mark, what's the latest with Greg and Liam at the moment?
Yeah, they're making good progress. Greg is running on a Alter G machine, which is like anti-gravity machine. So he's up to have a little bit of work on there, which means he's not weight bearing, but he's getting into the running actions and working his legs and his lungs. And he's got a follow-up appointment with the consultant in a few weeks' time, but he's making really good progress. He's an unbelievable pro. He will be back as soon as possible, whatever the least limit time is. That's where he'll get, because he does every single thing every single day relentlessly to get himself back, and he's really determined to. And he adds real value to the training ground and the dressing room on match days when he's around. But he's making good progress. We're still some way off. He's obviously not even weight bearing with his running, but he's working really well, and he's got good movement and good strength in the ankle. So he's doing great. Liam likewise, he's in the gym. He's still inside at the moment. He's not running it outside at the minute, but he's got a follow-up appointment next week with the consultant for a follow-up scan. But that's making good progress, and hopefully we'll have him jogging out on the grass again quite soon.
Any idea on timescales for either of them?
We've got a bit of an idea on both, but not one that we'll talk about because you'll hold me to it, and anything can happen over that period of time.
With Lloyd as well, obviously he went for a scan on Monday. Did that all go to plan? Was that a good enough scan for him?
Yeah, it was exactly what Mikey had thought it was, and a little bit of an issue, but it's settling down quite nicely. He's got a lot more strength in the joint now than he had a week ago. So he's making quite good progress. It's just a bit of a slow burner. And obviously, when we play so many games in a short period of time, they miss more games than perhaps they might do if it was a normal period. So it's just the timing that's a bit tough for us to take. But at the same time, he's making some good progress, and we hope he's not too far away.
With Rotherham, what style of play are you expecting from them?
I think they're incredibly athletic, incredibly powerful. You've got front two and options of front twos that will make you defend the box. They'll deliver the box. They've got real good quality on set plays, long throw, and they'll serve forward passes and make us defend constantly. Any moment we've got the ball, if we don't finish our attacks, they'll have the ball at the other end of the pitch quite quickly, and they're an incredibly hard running team. So I think physically the game will be very, very challenging. And you look at some of the results and performances they've put in recently against some big teams, they've come out really well against them. So I think we know the size of the challenge, but we've always risen to challenges quite nicely. And I think it's one that we'll fancy going and taking on.
You did touch on it upon it with Swanee as well, with this current run that you're in. Just how tough a run of games is this at the moment?
Time will tell. The table says it's going to be really tough, but we're playing against 11 players, not the size of a club or its history or where they've been or how many fans they've got. We're playing against teams that we shouldn't be competing with in many people's eyes, and we shouldn't be able to beat in many people's eyes. But we've done it before against these teams, so that's kind of the mindset that we go into. I think we understand we're underdog against everyone we play against, but we're doing all right with that so far. So we'll go with a determination to be competitive. We'll see how it rolls. We know it's tough and challenging, but I think every period has been, and we've done very well to date. So we've got to go and attack these games in the best way we can, physically commit to the games as best as we can in a period where we know we're a little bit stretched and the games are really tough. But certainly games that I think we're looking forward to. And once we get this one out of the way, we've got a great double header at home next week. So yeah, good opportunity for us to go and test ourselves against teams that without doubt are going to be top end of the table this year.
Great. Thanks, Mark.